I'm Spencer from Full of Hell, and this is Gear Masters. I'm going to be showing you some of my new guitars. I think the last time I did one of these was 2016 or 17 when we were on tour with Entombed AD. Since then, I've gone through a couple companies, and now I'm like with Fender. I'm very partial to the Jazzmaster, obviously. This is my main one. You can obviously tell it's beat up. It's my beater guitar. I think this one is just a standard Vintera series. With most of my Jazzmasters, I always change the tuning pegs to more modern tuning pegs because I cannot stand the vintage Fender tuning pegs with the open slots. Also to end up changing all the bridge pickups in these. And this is a Seymour Duncan JB, just a standard one. I think the only thing that's like a little bit different, like this one and in this Jazzmaster, which I'll come back to, they're the same pickups. I actually prefer the spacing for the Floyd Roses. I feel like it's a little bit hotter. I have, just like I said, the standard JB in one of my other Jazzmasters, but it's a little darker, a little bassier. This one is a little brighter and a little hotter. With the tone of the guitar, I just have everything. This just fell in a second ago. These I don't really use for the studio. I'll turn it down, and there's like certain songs we have where I'll use it as like a kill switch, but live I don't really do that, just in case I hit it and turn off the guitar. This one is in C standard, and I use Ernie Ball Burley Slinky 11 to 56. I don't really use the whammy. Like I said, you can tell I beat it up a lot from touring. It's got some cracks in the finish, and you know, like I said, even part of this just fell out, so I got to fix that. This is my other C standard guitar for this tour. It is a Mod Shop Jazzmaster. It's like the thing you can do on the website where it's just like you design your own guitar without having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars for custom Fender shop. I wanted something a little different because, like I said, I usually use the Vintera ones. I have a couple of those, but this one I like the maple neck. It like makes it a little brighter. Even with like the changing of the pickup, it still has a completely different voice than that guitar. And also too, with the reverse headstock, with like the string tension and length, it changes the tone some, makes it a little bit darker, a little bit bassier. I went with the more modern tuning pegs. Like there's the option to get the modern or the vintage. You can do reverse headstock or non-reverse. I'm not sure what the standard pickups are in these. I forget which model. Like the Jazzmasters with Fender, they have so many different variations. But like I said, this is just a Seymour Duncan JB with the Floyd Rose spacing in it. This is a backup. The last couple nights I've been using it as my main, just to like, I've never really toured with it. I've usually used it as like a studio guitar, so I just wanted to bring it on the road to like see how I felt. Like the neck is a little bit thicker compared to the Vintera Jazzmaster, so it's like it takes a little bit to get used to. And this is obviously just a standard switch. The Mod Shop doesn't have like the typical Jazzmaster setup. It has like, I think this is from the American Pro 1, which they decided to get rid of when they went to the American Pro 2. So yeah, and same tuning, same string gauge as the Vintera as well. This is right now my main E-flat guitar, which has the Ernie Ball standard slinky strings on it, which I know it's 10 to 40 something, I forget the length, but you may notice that it has a left-handed bridge on it for some reason. I did not order it that way. When I got it from Fender, it just showed up like this. I've looked at pictures, and it is from other people that I've seen playing it and on their website, it is not supposed to have a left-handed pick or a left-handed bridge to it. So I have no idea why this one has the whammy arm up at the top compared to down here. That's just what they sent me. The only issue I had with this guitar when I got it is I cannot stand that the volume pot is in the middle of the plate. So I took it to my local guitar store and I was like, just completely gut the guitar so I can have fast access to the volume to do fast cuts. But I also too, I used to do it on a couple of other like ESPs and LTDs I had. I like taking out the top pickup because it does give it a different voice. I've heard in other interviews that people like prefer the single pickup because they think the magnets on the neck pull it more, so it gives it a different tone. So without the magnets, it gives it like a much tighter tone, I feel like. And it even has like, with it having so much empty cavities, because I didn't, once I took out everything, I didn't refill in anything. It's just, as you see it, it's all empty. And it actually does give it a different voice, like almost like a semi-hollow guitar. So yeah, this is my main E flat. We only use it for like 3 songs, but like we've been writing more E flat songs, so this will get more use. Finally, a different guitar than the Fenders is Developing Nations in Baltimore. I used to be in a band with him called iFlies. He's recorded a bunch of my music, whether it be like Full of Hell or side projects. He's in bands like Triac, he's in iFlies, like I said. But besides the studio, he builds aluminum neck guitars. And I've had 3 of these now. The first one I had got stolen. And then I have another one for the C standard tuning. And this is my E flat aluminum. With the aluminum necks, you have to use a little bit heavier of a gauge. So these strings are the same as the C standards. So if you were to put standard strings on it, they would be too floppy, even in E flat. So you have to go up a couple gauges. But when you play it, you do not feel that it's up a couple gauges. It's based on a Gibson Corvus, which was like a very unpopular guitar shape in the 80s. I've used it a couple times in other bands. This is the first time I've used it in Full of Hell on tour. Still getting kind of used to it because it's obviously a weird shape. So it's like when you're playing fast, you have to like hold it up almost. But still, it's pretty comfortable. It's almost playing like a flying V, but still it's like, it has neck dive to it obviously because there's no weight to the body. From the cold weather, it's starting to get a little bit of checking in the paint from like going in and out of the venues. And it's just getting a little dirty, but Kevin, he does all the routing, he does all the neck profiles, he does all the painting, he does everything on the guitar. He even winds the pickups. These pickups are like a little bit hotter than what he usually winds. I'm not sure what he calls his models, but I will say this is probably my best sounding guitar that I have ever owned. For picks, I don't usually go with a specific brand, but I do always use the USA nylon, no matter what. So I have Jim Dunlop and Ernie Ball. The Ernie Ball just says medium, the Jim Dunlop is 0.88. They're the same thickness, even though they're like different colors, different companies. They're essentially the same pickup, but it's like, I cannot use the standard plastic picks. Like I need to have the nylon ones so I can feel my fingers still hitting the string beneath the pick. So that's why I like the more like flimsy plastic to these. So this is my pedal board. With the chain, usually people like to have like their distortions like towards the front, like closest to their guitar. For some reason, I've always set it up so it's right before the amp. I like it that way because during the set, if I need to tune or something, say I have the tuner up here and I turn it on, it's gonna cut off all the signal. So if I keep it down here, I can still make noise in between songs and be able to tune. So it's there's no dead silence unless I absolutely want it to. For splitting my amps, I always use the Radial Big Shot AB switch. Like, I've used them for years. I don't know how many I've gone through now at this point, because we use them so much they just burn up very quickly. I have no idea why, because I don't even switch them. I run both amps full blast at all times. But I like it because you can, like, obviously lift the ground or switch the polarity or fix the phasing with these compared to other ones where it does give you a lot of ground hum. Like, certain venues, like even this can't fix the ground hum, but compared to some of the other AB switches I have, like, this is definitely my go-to. This is just a standard Rat, like a cheap one you can get from Guitar Center. I think I paid $79 for it. I know people like live by certain ones with certain chips or whatever, but like, this is the first Rat I've actually ever owned, and I've only gotten it in the last 2 years. Like, I just never really thought about it or cared to like get a distortion pedal for my chain. I still mainly for my tone use the guitar's like gain. This is mainly when we have a song like, say, like Vessel Deserted with a big sludgy breakdown, I have it turned all the way up everything, and when I hit it on for this breakdown, you can hear where bands like Earth or Sun obviously have used these to get that like very blown out, heavy, bassy tone, but still have a ton of clarity. So now I've like owned a bunch of Rat clones and like different like modded ones and stuff, but I always go back to just the standard one. Like, it's the best sounding one. Like, I even have an original version of the Life pedal, and I love that one, but it doesn't compare to this for some reason. Next is a Death by Audio Kill filter. This is one of their like earlier, weirder pedals that's like kind of hard to find and pretty expensive, but I was able to find one for an actually reasonable price. All it is a 2-channel filter. So say in a song like Reeking Tunnels, where there's like a fuzzed out lead, I'll hit this on to give it a really blown out filter, like fuzzy sound. Like, it doesn't sound like anything else obviously in my chain, or other pedals I have. Like, usually for that song I'll use a MXR Blue Box, but I got this, and it's not as bassy, but it still does a similar like sizzly, like blown out type of sound. Next, I use the Dispatch Master Earthquaker delay pedal. This is my go-to pedal. Like, this is the pedal I use the most throughout the entire set. I did an interview with Earthquaker about 2 years ago, and I said, like, if I had to only have one pedal, it would be this one, because I could do an entire show and do as much like different noises, different sounds with just this pedal. Like, I don't even run it like that crazy. Like, I try to use it like tastefully for certain parts in songs, but it's just my favorite delay I've ever owned. Like, it's just something about it. It just like cuts through perfectly and is not like too detracting from what I'm actually like doing in the song. Next is the Transmissor from Earthquaker. It's just like a really blown out reverb with a lot of like the tails modulate when like the note starts to die in it. This, as you can see, I have dots on it from where I keep it, because I don't like using it like super like turned all the way up or super noticeable, because even when it's at this setting, it's still very noticeable. Like, you can still hear what you need to get from this pedal, instead of being something so crazy that you can't even control it. So it's like, it's a crazy pedal even when it's low, but you can actually set it so it's tasteful. I have a Grand Orbiter by Earthquaker. It's a phaser. Yet again, it's another pedal where it's not too crazy sounding. Like, because phaser pedals can get too out of hand sometimes, especially like too if like you have something turned all the way up. This one, I have it so it's enough that you can hear that it's phasing, but it's not enough that it's destroying the sound of the guitar completely. I mean, I used to like completely go all out with pedals and have everything turned all the way up all the time. But now I'm like getting more into being like, oh, I just want to add flavor to the set or a song. I'll use it in like a song like Bone Coral, where me and Dave, our drummer, will do like an improvised like section, and I'll have this on just to give a little bit of movement to like the notes, so it's not just like a dry guitar, like just distorted sound. It has like a little bit of movement, a little bit of effects to it. Next, I have a Boss Wazacraft Dimension C. I love Boss course pedals. Like there's no other company that I've been able to find that makes a course pedal that compares to a Boss one. Usually, I can't remember the name of the pedal, but I used a double foot switch course pedal, but that was like too big, too many options, and I found the Dimension C. I feel like with this, you can either get a perfect sound, like an in-between of like, say like a Japanese hardcore band like Deathside, who uses a lot of course on like certain riffs, or even something like post-punk, like, or like goth, like The Cure or something. And it's like, this pedal has the perfect blend of that sound, and you can see that there's no knobs. It's just all pre-programmed sounds in it. I usually run channel 4 on it. But yeah, it's like I said, it's the perfect in-between of say something like punk or goth, or it's very 80s sounding. Noise suppressor, I very rarely use. Like, if you know my band, you know we use a ton of feedback. This is mainly if the venue is super buzzy and like this isn't, the Radial Big Shot isn't like getting the ground hum completely out, I'll turn this on in between songs. But for the most part, I'll use it for certain parts in Reeking Tunnels where I need to get like a tight stop on certain notes, but not use the tuner, because the tuner might kill the sound. But for the most part, like I said, like this is just like a necessity pedal. Like, you know, I don't use it all the time, but I have it if I need it. Last is just standard Boss tuner with both tunings I use. So the venue's a little tight on stage. Can't really see the amps right now, but I just have 2 orange 4x12 standard loaded cabinets, nothing fancy speaker-wise. For heads, I use a Mad Amp GT1, which is a more bassy, like rocker reverb almost sound, but it is the loudest amp I've ever owned in my entire life, like without a doubt. My other amp, which I split the signal with, I use a TH100 Orange, which is my favorite amp of all time. They stopped making them, I don't know why. I wish Orange would still make high gain metal amps, but the rock reverb suffices, but still, TH100 is my absolute favorite. I also have a CR120 on one side as a backup, and the new Orange Super Crush on the other side as the other backup. With the TH100, it only has like a shape knob, volume, and gain. Shape I usually have around 4. Volume I usually have around 6 or 7, and gain I usually have around 7 or 8. With the Mad Amp, like I said, it's the loudest amp I ever owned, so I only need to keep it on like 2 or 3. It is a more classic voiced amp, so I have the gain turned all the way up on it, but it also has a bass shape to it, and I usually have that around halfway. I would say bass is turned all the way up, trebles around 3, and mids are around 3. Come see Full of Hell on our tour with Acacia Strain and Fit For An Autopsy. I mean, when this comes out, maybe that tour will be over, but we're also going to Europe with Primitive Man in June, and we have a bunch of stuff coming up throughout the year. So yeah, just keep an eye out.